Oh, well, hello, my wonderful, beautiful broskies and wonderful, beautiful broskies. Oh, the wonderful, beautiful Dark Shadow Maverick Nation. I am the Dark Shadow Maverick, and it is time. Finally time. It is finally time for What If Izuku Was Shadow Part 06. However, something that's going to be interesting about this part is that this part is going to contain somewhat of a several layered surprise. And what I mean by several layered surprise, well, you guys are just going to have to wait and see. See, unlike the original Sonic 06, which has Sonic's theme, his world, seeing as the story revolves around Shadow, also going to have his theme, but not just any, the actual, instead of the manga fee version from Shadow the Hedgehog, this one, not just my favorite version of this theme, but my favorite Sonic music in general, like basically my favorite Sonic track in general, like literally, this is my fave. All Hail Shadow, Crush 40 version. What if Izuku Goya Shadow? Episode 06. Ruining everything that's not your friend. Nothing could stop you now. No ghost can bring you down. There's something left to lose. You will find your head, your own shadow. Find your head, your own shadow. It will set you free. When you tragedy, the promise that we need. Settle over just another day. When tragedy, everything comes our way. Nation of the strong. Tell me that you searched for so long. No shadow, heroes once again. Underrating everything that's not your friend. Nothing can stop you now. No room to bring you down. And nothing left to lose. You win. No shadow, all no shadow. Real arrow, all no shadow. In chaos we all find ourselves. This destruction is the only thing we tell. What is black and black is white. Right is wrong and wrong is right. We never hear this all inside our hearts. The nation of the strong. Okay, that you searched for so long. Oh, your shadow, heroes rise again. Obliterating everything that's not your friend. Need to stop you now. Lay you down. There's nothing left to lose. You win. Oh, here we are. The return of What If Shadow. Basically, What If Izuku was Shadow? And the return of What If Izuku was Shadow. Part 06. Not Part 6, Part 06. Though this would actually surprise me if this was the 6th part. I doubt it is, but it would actually surprise me if it was. Because Adventure 2, Heroes, Shadow the Hedgehog, no, it would be the 4th part. My math hasn't betrayed me, which technically I suck at math. If you're talking about specific things like just math in general. Just math in general, I suck, but specific math, depends on what kind of specific math you're talking about. But I'd rather not dwell on that. Rather dwell on something that is actually fun to talk about. Get your guys' gray matter going. And basically, the reason why I said this was going to be a layered little surprise, or surprises, is because this is going to be a multi-crossover. That's just getting crazy. Keep on freaking hot in my neck. Mind. That was just weird. Tilted my head back just a little and whatever the hell happened there happened. Basically, why I said it's a multi-layered crossover is because, well, not just this, but also, what if Izuku had the current symbiote and what if Izuku was Tatsumaki? And why this, but also being like 06 part, representing that? Well, technically in 06 there are 3 different storylines going along. And technically in the way I plan to do this, it's also kind of going to be a huge, major amount of references to the original What If Naruto. I'm going, well, fuck. What if Izuku was freaking Shadow? Anyways, how I'm planning on doing this is, I don't know what to say if it's relatively simple or not, or, relatively, not simple or not. I guess all depends on how you look at the story. From what point of view you want to look at it. Then again, I guess you would have to know about the other what ifs in order to actually get an idea, get a grasp on what I'm actually talking about. Like the plots to the other what ifs. I believe the thing that was kind of like a clone of Gun that I made, WMU instead of GUN. WMU as in World Military Unit, or something similar to that. I'm gonna say WMU as in World Military Unit. That's a thing. It's going to be a thing. And basically, as of relatively recent, Izuku Shadow has found himself working alongside Eri and E321 Omega as members of WMU, World Military Unit. And, well, safe to say that for what's about to happen in this story, things are about to go wild. Because last time I checked, Izuku, Ken Izuku decided that he wanted to basically branch off. Things were coming to a close, branch off and basically go off to, he heard about the place Soliana, which I'm going to say for the sake of this what if and the fact that My Hero Academia actually, basically has its roots basically in the roots of actual, like, real locations, like real life locations. I'm going to say that Soliana in this is basically is well, let's just say the states. Not necessarily the states, but north of the states, as in Canada. Canada, eh? Oh god, I feel racist. Basically Canada. Basically Soliana is in Canada. For this what if. And so, yeah, basically, that's going to be the trek that Izuku's going to face. He has to go all the way from Japan to Canada. And as for the whole base of where WMU, World Military Unit, is basically somewhere, basically, in the midst of the states. So, south of Canada. And also, that basically means south of Soliana. And really, Izuku Midoriya's shadow, they don't get interested in going anywhere near Soliana. Whenever actually hearing that Izuku is actually going to go through with what he said and is actually going to Soliana. Which is, also from even more like freaking news that he had heard, actually is a real place, and where it actually is in Canada. Like in the heartland of Canada. I think that's Quebec. It's like the heartland, like the capital, I think. I think it's Quebec. If it's not Quebec, I'm sorry, Canadians. I am terribly sorry. But that's like the only place I can think of, like whenever I think heartland of Canada. like Quebec. Either Ontario or Toronto, but I'm thinking Quebec for some reason. I'm just thinking Quebec. And so basically, not specifying anything like directly, just so that I don't get destroyed in the comments section. Like, try to get destroyed as least as possible. So, yeah, basically, somewhere in Canada, somewhere in, like, the Heartlandish area of Canada, is where Soliana is supposed to be. And that just like most Canadians, the people of Soliana are generally nice people that are generally way too forgiving and just way too nice. Though they lack the all-dressed chips, but what they don't lack is the maple syrup. They just have less of it than most of like the rest of Canada. Like, they don't necessarily lack the maple syrup. It's just like less than the rest of Canada. And that's basically better than the situation with the all-dressed chips, in which they have none. You could imagine how that would make Canadians in real life feel. And the whole situation with milks in either like cartons or jugs and bags or whatever. They're like the rest of Canada. They're milks and frickin' bags because they're Canadian. And that's just how they do. That's just how they are. That's how they do. That's how Canadians do with their milk. They have it in bags. And so basically, since Soliana is like in like mostly the heartland area of like Canada, basically, no wonder they would have their milk in freaking bags. Even during like the time of the festival of like the sun god, like Solaris, like the time traveling sun god Solaris. And oh my god, don't even get me started on the freaking ritual. Like, if there's even one moment in, like, the ritual where anything goes wrong, the Canadians all go and like, gathering around to, like, witness the spectacle of the ritual will lose their shit. So basically, the high priestess, like the person of the highest order, the highest authority, is the person, like the princess is like or one consider like the highest priestess, like the highest princess, the highest priestess type, will be the one to have the task of, you know, the ritual of the flame of Solaris. Keeping the flame managed in order to not upset the god Solaris. In order to not upset Solaris, they have to manage the flame, especially during the time of the ritual. And also even decorate the cauldron in which Solaris' flame is kept in. As there's not just 2 parts, but 3 parts. The mind, the soul, and the spirit. The mind being known as Mephiles, the soul being known as Iblis, and the spirit being known, well, technically it is believed that The spirit does not have a name, or at least its name is not known by usual moral-like minds. Almost like they aren't supposed to know. Either that or the name was lost to time, but for what reason, most of the modern day Solion people don't really know. Though it is indeed believed that there is a name given, it's just that it may indeed possibly be lost to time, but no one really knows. At least that's what it's believed to be. Though the High Priestess slash Princess, yes, she's actually both the High Priestess and the Princess, she's both, her name being Elise. She was High Priestess before she was the Princess. I mean, it was her destiny to become the Princess, but before she actually became the Princess, she became the High Priestess. In order for, like, training whenever she eventually took the title of Princess. As a testament to her will of, like, the duties that her father left behind whenever he had died. Something to do with something called the Solaris Project. At least not really knowing what that all meant, but the people of Soliana not really seeming to give a shit about the whatever the hell the Solaris Project was supposed to be, so Elise ended up dismissing it as well. Though never really truly forgetting, she always somewhat reminisced about that night, which things went wrong. She never truly forgot about the Soliana Project. The Solaris Project. Seeing as that was the night in which her father had died. And that's whenever, during this one specific moment, in this one specific ceremony, this one specific one, the name would come to her, the name of the spirit. Everyone in Selena had pretty much already known the name of the mind and, well, the basic body of Solaris, their sun god of the sun and time itself, as it's fluctuating. Mephiles and Iblis. But third one, now it's clear as day, even more clear than day, too. The not just High Priestess, but also Princess of Soliana, Elise, the name of Spirit. Spirit. His name. The name of the Spirit. The name of the spirit of Soliana, Kamahiro. The name. Others would think, why would she remember the name now? And what significance would it hold? The name of the spirit, Kamahiro. What significance does it hold? And why now? As I would at least would think. How long after the Festival of Soliana, we would see a familiar face, but yet not too happy face to behold, depending on who you asked. Ah, yes, the Festival of Soliana. This does indeed seem to be interesting. And that's what you have with you right there, Princess. Let's at least begin to hold what she had close to her chest, closer than before, closer than she had before, closer than she had been holding it before to her chest. The Blue Chaos Emerald. Now, I hope you're getting it back to my possession. At least would say, who are you and what do you want with our kingdom? And a voice failing to be demanding, showing her truly vulnerable side in the face of adversity. She had no idea what was going on, how she could remember the name of the spirit, and that it was driving her crazy, making her will weak, and showing this to the people that she was supposed to protect. This would not be good. However, it seemed to be something very, very different planned. Egghead, I suggest you back off. Huh? Wait, it's the green at. Buzz off, you loser. You don't have any of your friends to save you. And as said Green, I would say, I don't need any of them to save me. As I'll clearly show by doing this. As said Greenhead would then disappear, and then reappear on the other side of Eggman and his vehicle, basically demoralizing it, and Eggman only being able to escape through some very inventive fireworks, and, well, his normal dirty hand in matters. Certain matters, that is. This being interesting. Interesting indeed. However, not all of that could really last. As soon, Garnett, before you could even say his name, be attacked by someone. Saying, "It's no use. Take this." Ah! I guess we'll go over to said Greenette. Are you okay? Are you safe? Well, other than not feeling like everything is up or down or left to right, yeah, mostly fine. Oh, and by the way, name's Izuku. Izuku Midoriya. And you are, I believe, Princess Elise, also known as the High Priestess of Soliana, before you became truly the princess that they needed you to be? And Elise would nod, very well, with a very knowing look at the Greenette. Oh, don't worry about it, princess. I'm not here to hurt you. Just here to rescue a princess. Like saying, wait, you know this was going to happen? You knew it all along? Simply the Greenette, now known as Izuku, saying, well, in a way, I guess you could say that. Well, it's now to deal with this guy. Who exactly does he think he is? By the way, what did I even get hit by? Wait, this person. Whoa. Did I just get smacked by a girl? The person saying, what the? Why does my hair make everybody think I'm a girl? For your information, I'm not only a boy, but my name is Izuku Midoriya. A high-class Esper, and the #1 hero in all of Japan. Izuku would simply say, well, Izuku would simply say, aw, hell no, this cannot be happening again. Well, I'm Izuku Midoriya. So, unless you want me to drop you, you're gonna have to back down. And that's whenever the other would say, the other one, the one with psychic powers would say, no, I was told that you were going to do something bad, and I can't let you go through with it, or else the world will be thrown into disaster. And especially it has something to do with the princess / high priestess. And that's when Izuku would clearly respond with, what are you talking about? I'm not about that life at all. That's whenever the other one, simply now being pronounced as Tatsumaki Izuku, basically saying, well, it's easy for you to say trigger, the trigger of all this madness, the one who will drive this world into chaos itself. And Izuku basically saying, wow, you must be really one confused mofo. First I get Shadow, and now this person. Only this person seems to be absolutely nuts. At least Shadow was somewhat reasonable. This person seems to be absolutely freaking insane. Uh, um, for your information, weirdo, I'm actually one of the good guys. And then the other one, Tatsumaki Izuku would say, oh yeah? Well then why do you cause so much destruction in the future? And Izuku would simply be like, what destruction? I don't get it. And then this fight would continue on, basically until they would reach another little roadblock. Well, not so little, technically, because this little roadblock would be in the middle of a fight with Izuku Midoriya's shadow. And they would seem to be a relative pain in the freaking ass. Looks like me and Carnage are a little bit too much for you, eh, Shadow? You call yourself, right? And that's whenever Izuku Midoriya's shadow would simply say, well, you call yourself, what was it? Carnage? What exactly is all your shit about? From what I could get just now, you seem to be in the same boat with that person calling themselves Izuku, but for some reason having weird-ass psychic powers. And from what I can tell, honestly, has no freaking idea what they're talking about. The reality we live in is nothing like what they're talking about. Some sort of despair and, well, end of the world shit. This is absolutely freaking insane. You gotta at least admit that. Basically, this person now identified, or at least being currently identified, as Carnage Izuku. Yes, now the three of them basically are their reasons for being here. Basically, Carnage Izuku and Tatsumaki Izuku basically dragging each other into this mess without even really wanting to do so. Well, you can say that more for one side than you can say that for the other. And, well, more or less, Izuku Midoriya's shadow, consider being in the relationship that he's in with Kan, and Izuku is kind of having to deal with this whole thing. Smack dab in the seconds, like, front and center. You know, and doesn't really look like it's letting up anytime soon, or going to let up anytime soon. Going to be that way either. Basically, that's whenever Izuku Midoriya's shadow would just blast the room, like the entire space. Not really a room, but the entire space they're at. You know, in the entire area with chaos energy, just getting everyone's attention, just being like, okay, that's it. All of you take turns, no shouting over another person. Literally, like I said, take turns explaining yourselves. I'll decide who I can trust more. Out of all of your crazy asses. And basically, everyone explains themselves. Basically, Izuku explaining that, you know, it should be relatively easy for, you know, Izuku Midoriya Shadow to digest that, since they're in the same world, they can kind of understand each other better. But as for the whole situation with Tatsumaki Izuku and Karaji Izuku, well, that shit is cray. Especially since Karaji Izuku is actually more than one person. That's whenever it's kind of like a freaking Dr. Lecter thing. Freaking Izuku Midoriya Shadow starts to pull some Dr. Lecter shit and actually psychologically evaluate the two, Karaji Izuku and freaking Tatsumaki Izuku. So technically, if you actually think about that, it's technically 2.5, seeing as Karaji's there. So basically, a psychiatric evaluation. One of that later. One of those things later. Yeah, that later. And, well, for each. So, after all that is said and done, basically, the solution that Izuku Midoriya Shadow ends up coming up with is that A, for Karaji Izuku, basically the wrong place, the wrong time. They were basically at the wrong place at the wrong time, and they got sucked into this, even though they didn't want to be sucked into this. And not only that, but the only reason why they even got a chance to get sucked into this is because Carnage in this version of, this world, instead of Izuku actually getting a chance to kill himself and succeeding, in this version, Carnage actually succeeds to prevent Izuku from, committing seppuku. Actually, sort of gives his own sort of psychiatric evaluation and, helps Izuku off his freaking, pity horse. And, well, basically, explained. Wrong place, wrong time. Yeah, basically, after all of that, it's basically explained that that's how all of that happened, and that's how they got roped into all this. They weren't even trying to get roped into all of it. It was just by happenstance, a weird ass happenstance that this happened to them. It wasn't even meant to happen. It just happened. But there's always a reason for everything, so I guess more research, the more research you do, the closer to the answer you get. But on the matter of Tatsumaki Izuku and the whole belief of can Izuku basically bring upon the end of the world, as apparently Tatsumaki Izuku knows it, especially after having to deal with basically all black. Yeah, that shit. Basically, even after that, actually thinking that Izuku, this version of Izuku, is the one who's going to bring forth the end of the world. Yeah, something terrifyingly, bad must have happened. Either that, or there has been some crazy mindfuckery going on, and, for once in, Izuku Midoriya Shadow's life, he actually kind of feels scared on actually figuring out the truth of what caused that said mindfuckery. But, what? Gotta, gotta go dig in deeper, figure out what exactly is going on. And so he did so. Just that. And apparently, the three things of Solaris, the mind, body, and spirit, even spirit, I forgot the name, so I might just make a new one. Since I forgot the old one, I'm going to come up with a new one. Heineko. Basically, Iblis being the body and pretty much power of Solaris, and Mephiles being the basically mind and just general all methodical mind of Solaris, and basically Heineko being the spirit and overall purities and general like way to expel impurities of Solaris. Solaris being known as a sort of divine figure, and so more of a divine god than that one of a god, of evil. And that is even against the code of what a god is. Gods aren't supposed to be evil, so there was supposed to be something to be able to expel any evil that would come Solaris' way. So that is another purpose of Heineko, the spirit of Solaris. And something basically that is brought up whenever, the three parts of Solaris are brought up, right in front of Tatsumaki Izuku, that Iblis, Mephiles, and Heineko have all been things that, Tatsumaki Izuku has seen before. And even, like for certain ones, like for certain cases, like actually conversed with. For example, basically, Iblis, even though, well, as long as the flames of disaster are around, Iblis is pretty much bound to be around, but never really will burst into life until something happens in the future. Though God knows what's going to happen in order for that to happen, so, and I don't know. And as for Mephiles and Heineko, well, those are the two ones in which Tatsumaki Izuku actually admits to talking to. Heineko even admitting something that, well, Izuku Midoriya's shadow might actually be interested in, should something that it had told and Mephiles that he actually verified as being true is actually true. Because, the mind can be a very tricky and fickle thing. Not always telling the truth. That's kind of how the mind is. It's kind of how the mind do. And, well, as that's how it is. Basically, Izuku Midoriya Shadow, wanting to know what exactly this is, this thing was, Tatsumaki Izuku basically explains that Hinako and Mephiles and Solaris, actually Hinako, Mephiles, and Iblis, excuse me, before becoming the true form, basically the impure form, not the true form, the impure form, the one that looks like the turtle that fought freaking Pennywise. At least in my opinion, that's kind of what it looks like. Basically, phase 1 of Solaris. Basically, before becoming phase 2 in like actual measure of power, like the true form of Solaris, before becoming the true form, it was indeed something else. Phase 1 didn't even exist. There was actually a phase 0. And that was actually the form in which Hinako and even Mephiles somewhat actually mentioned. Though Mephiles not in the same light as Hinako. Hinako, well, not exactly mentioning it in a positive light, didn't exactly, well, say it in a non-positive light. More or less in the kind of light someone would say if they didn't want to talk about said thing. Like, not necessarily that they didn't, like that they didn't talk about it, but more or less that they didn't want to talk about it. Though they talked about it anyways. Just because, I guess. And that's basically something noted. And as for Mephiles, however, there was definitely some meaning behind, probably some definite meaning behind, well, the kind of attitude that was in the words said by Mephiles about this said phase 0 that seems to have once been a thing. And basically, it's basically Hinako and Mephiles both mentioned that in this phase 0, basically, that they had a father and mother. And, well, they even had an older sister. Well, not necessarily blood related. They were still kind of like an older sister, seeing as they were still in the family. Though, unlike them, they weren't technically blood related. Only really related through adoption. And the more and more, start talking about, the interactions in between Hinako and Mephiles, their reactions with Hinako and Mephiles, and even some of Iblis's more wrathful spats at the general area, Izuku Midoriya's shadow begins to basically sort of realize something. Again, and Izuku's like, what exactly is this that you're realizing? And it's basically like, I, was going to have a child once, with my dream girlfriend. And, well, someone that we didn't indeed adopt. It was a girl. You always wonder, how I have such ties with Barry, how we seem so close, even though at first it really didn't seem like we even met each other. Because we really didn't. Or at least in your world, your area. Technically, we didn't. Now I think you maybe should be able to understand more. Izuku's kind of beginning to understand, like, oh shit, you're not actually honestly suggesting that. Oh my god. And basically, Izuku was like, well, hot damn, this just got a hell of a lot more crazy. And basically, Tatsumaki Izuku was just like, wait a second. So, wait a sec. No way. You're saying that the spirit of Solaris and the mind of Solaris might actually be a combination, and that by also combining with it basically ended up becoming pretty much the body and overall strength of Solaris, they became actual Solaris. Instead of just being this phase 0, they became not only the phase 1, but eventually, the flame and everything, the festival of what Solaris actually is. And basically, Izuku's just like, sadly, yes. And indeed in the belief that our daughter... But why 2 names? Why have 2 different identities? Nephlis and Heineko. And what's with the whole Iblis? And that's whenever basically they would end up coming across a little bit of a dilemma. Eggman would end up snagging, a piece straight from underneath their noses. But as they thought that they had finally just managed to get some reprieve from this damn asshole, he snatches the frickin' princess. And this just sucks everything. And, well, to be honest, and, with basically everybody, here, basically, Izuku Midoriya Shadow Izuku and Canon Izuku decide that, it would be nice just to be left to contemplate themselves, because Canon Izuku is the closest thing that, Izuku Midoriya Shadow has to someone that you can relate to right about now. So basically, Kaji Izuku and Tatsumaki Izuku are sent to different locations than where freaking Izuku Midoriya Shadow and Canon Izuku are going. Basically, they're headed to I forget the name of the place. It's supposed to be... Maybe it'll be easier to figure out where Kaji Izuku and Tatsumaki Izuku would be going. I guess Kaji Izuku would be going White Acropolis, and Tatsumaki Izuku would be going the aquatic mind-based thing. Like, whatever the hell that's called. And I guess, as a hint to where I'm actually thinking that Izuku Midoriya Shadow and Canon Izuku would be going, It's the area where whenever you go as Shadow, like, the camera does not follow you all that well, so you end up actually, dying accidentally several times. I will admit Sonic 06's camera is not that good. Especially in that one level with Shadow. When you're playing a Shadow in that one level, good God, it's a pain. Because you can be going near shit and not even see it coming, and it's like, your entire day. So yeah, basically, by the time Izuku Midoriya Shadow and Ken Izuku have actually gotten to the place where they want to go, basically, Ken Izuku's like, whoa, what's this? And Izuku Midoriya Shadow is like, just gets a flash of something like, like, it's almost like a, like, future sight of, like, what will happen next, and he's like, wait, don't! And almost like Izuku, like, can Izuku start to trip and drop the thing that he picked up, which is basically a scepter, scepter of darkness. And all of a sudden, poof! And, Izuku Midoriya Shadow is just like, it's like, shh. And then all of a sudden, like, the sun, which was as regular a few seconds ago, starts to create a beam that shines down through the ceiling, because there really is no ceiling, and the beam starts to connect with the shadow being cast down from whatever the hell's coming out of the scepter. And two forms begin to come out instead of just one. One form being more or less, instead of the fire that comes from the flames of disaster, which really is not pure at all, this light seems to be beyond pure, and the darkness being emitted seems to be relatively calm being near this pure light. While it's still darkness, it seems to be relatively calmed down by being close to the source of this emitting of pure light. Seeing as it is not the raging fire, like impurity, it can only be one other thing in Izuku Midoriya Shadow's mind. He's like, you're... And the person will just be like, yes, I am. Screw it, I'm gonna say the name of these guys, and it's just gotta be the name no matter what. The names are Iblis, Mephiles, and Carciel. Basically, the person just being like, yes, and Carciel. Mephiles, I see you're wide awake. He would just hear this voice like, thanks to you, Encarcio. And the person would just be like, oh, well, you just ruin the fun, why don't you? I was wanting them to guess, see if they could correctly what my name was. You've always been the person, since you've always been the person to state things. After all, you are the mind of Solaris. We three beings create the god of the sun and time itself. The one that the members of Soliana's society fear without question, without knowing the origin of our nigh limitless power. However, our power, there needed to be something to put it in. Something with equal amounts of energy that would be able to balance out such great potential. Iblis is just a mere placeholder for our true ability. Why did you abandon us, Dad? Why did you go away? And Izuku Midoriya Shana would just be like, wait, that voice. Eri? No, you're not. And then you would just hear, Papa, why did you abandon us? And then you would just hear, Incarcio, that you said you abandoned that a long time ago. The name, Eri. Disgusting. And then Incarcio would turn to Mephiles and be like, Mephiles, you take so many things at face value. You truly take more after Iblis than I do. Well, I guess it is more your leniency on said power. Clinging to it like a lifeline. Unaware that there are others around you. You cannot grasp the true power of Solaris' attack. You cannot grasp the true form of Solaris. And that is what you heard whenever first becoming one with it. The power of Solaris. So what if I'm clinging on to old ties? It's just to show Father how much he's missed. How much that could have been. Now, Now what shall we do? That's right. Without anyone there, mother dying shortly after childbirth, I had to begin something on my own, along without anyone to support me. It surely did begin. Project Nephilis, the Dark. Not exactly the best starting point, but then again, I wasn't getting in the best of ways. Again, how could I have been in the best of ways? It was right after everything had gone south. But now, things are different. You the mind, myself the spirit, Iblis, an incarnation of our true desires. The power, once we all join, we become their very sun god, their very lord of time itself, Solaris. Yes, Father, without you or Mother to name, I had to think of something. And seeing as my mental state at the time, I guess I have me to thank for the poor naming choice. Well, I say that. I actually find that I quite like the name. Memphis, really? Even though you're a girl? Maybe I'd like it more if you didn't freaking say that out loud. Wait. Like Izuku Midoriya and Shadow was like, wait, you're a girl? And Mephiles would just be like, see what you did in Carcio? This is why I never call you by your real name. Once you came up with a code name, I never wanted to call you by that name again. Oh, so that's why you never called me Ari? Because you were upset? I made you upset. So you wanted to act like that? Maybe that's why I never, you ever thought of that like that? And Mephiles is just like, where the hell is Iblis? Maybe damn well knew where Iblis was. In the freaking Chaos Emeralds. And Solaris. And Izuku Midoriya Shadow would just be like, you don't have to. And Mephiles would just be like, what do you mean we don't have to? It's the only thing we have left, Father. And I bet you can tell by how much venom I have whenever say your name that I'm not exactly in the mood to have freaking crumpets and tea with someone like you who left us with nothing but really what we had to survive. Hell, I wasn't even 1 year old. And you left us. And he's looking through his shadow, just like, girls. And Netflix will just be like, don't you girls us. Besides, I don't want you putting Carcio in a situation. And Izuku Shadow would just interrupt and be like, Eri. Her name is Eri. And seeing as nothing ever happened otherwise, are you really okay with being called that? Mephiles, I mean. No, I'm not really sure if I would ever be okay with adding the dark. That is, unless you were really that okay with the whole thing. And Izuku would just be like, Izuku Midoriya Shadow would just be like, I didn't mean to leave you. I legit have no idea how I even ended up where I did. And legit sorry, but no, I know that whatever I did would never be able to make up for what I did to you. And what you said about your mother, that's actually true. And Carcio was just like, well, more or less, Mephiles being blinded by her hatred. Technically, Mother isn't really dead. It's just, Mother seems more or less dead to her. And Izuku Midoriya Shadow would be like, wait, what? Nani? And Mephiles would just be like, of course you have to rat me the out. And Carcio. Fine. I admit it. I abandoned the idea of her ever being Mother ever again. After it seemed like she abandoned us too. And freaking Encarcio, aka Eri, would just be like, Mephiles for the last damn time. And I can finally know that you can actually hear me say this. That you won't block me out. She wasn't technically dead. She was just too affected to properly care for us. You know, same thing with that Shoto kid. What happened with his mom? And Mephiles would just be like, wait, what? Mom, all this time. How can I know it's true? How can you know you're not lying? How can I know you're not lying to me? And Carcio would just be like, and Carcio slash Eri would just be like, really? Why would I ever lie to my sister? May not directly be blood related to me, but why would I ever lie to someone who I considered my sister? And Mephiles would just be like, And Carcio would just be like, oh, I get it. You don't want to accept the fact that you were wrong about Mom. I guess it's just natural human nature to want, to find something to blame for the shitty situation we were in. Once you couldn't find anything else, you looked to the nearest thing that wasn't me, that being Mom. Seeing as, well, Dad wasn't there at the time. And, well, blaming Dad at this point, I pretty much told you was, pointless. And that was being like, fine, I admit it. I screwed up. Are you happy now? No better than Dad. Dad was. And it turns out Dad didn't even have control over all of that. And something in the air just tells me that we can never go back to what we used to be. And Carcio slash, Aerie would just be like, well, I highly doubt that that's merely just the case. I mean, you know how Dad is. He pulls off miracles all the time. But, well, with Iblis and the whole equation, and, well, Nephilus just being like, oh, that's... Well, we can evenly distribute the power of Iblis. Because, basically we'll just become stronger so that we don't have to worry about being in that situation again. And Carcio was just like, oh, evenly distribute? Well, basically we'd have to have the trust of others around us. Basically there would be all the chaos emeralds and it'd be like, oh, it seems after hearing everything. And basically Elise would be like, after hearing all of that, I think you two really do deserve a happy ending. Especially, well, hearing everything of your father. And then Carcio and Nephilus just nod and are like, okay, well then how the hell do we freaking do this? And then it would just be the whole Tikal thing with the speech. And it's like, holy shit. Oh my god. And then and freaking Nephilus and Carcio would just be like, son of a... No! And basically, Nephilus and Carcio would basically just be freaking forms that, well, I'd just be able to go into. And technically, really, sort of, any sort of other name besides Nephilus would really just be considered more of a nickname. But then again, whenever you go around having the name Nephilus, it really doesn't, have any, give you any sort of a happy looks from people, relation to the devil. So just going on with the name Meph, Nephilus for short. So basically, seeing as Aerie also, is kind of sour with her past, even though everything, has kind of been sort of fixed up. So she still has the old Incarcio thing there. And seeing as, kind of the two of them kind of switch out for one syllable names, seeing as she kind of realized her name thing was Encarcio, so Encarcio, she would make her name N. like E-N, N. So meth and N. Basically, surprising Izuku Midoriya, Shadow, they actually, Eri did actually have themselves, and also Jiro helped with this too. A little bit of a, photo book, like, moments with the two of them. Or at least that was trying to happen. Because, like I said, in childbirth, that whole thing. So basically, N and meth, because, in Carcio and Methyl, it's not exactly the most welcoming of names. And not only that, but they split Impulse's power in between the two of them. And so they all both kind of have the flames of disaster running through their veins. And at any moment, they could just burst into their transformations automatically with no diff and just rain hell upon anyone who tried to mess with their family now that they finally got one back. And Izuku's finally like, well, I like this, but now that I know, my girlfriend, and basically all the situation with that, well, technically, the Chaos Emeralds have been known to work, miracles, and well, technically, they're boyfriend girlfriend, so the whole kissing thing wouldn't necessarily be frowned on. Plus, I mean, with the powers that, you know, Eri and Mephiles, and Meth technically have under their belt, they could indeed preserve the body of their mother quite well in order for this to happen without Izuku vomiting. Izuku Midoriya Shadow. Without him vomiting. And so basically a fully preserved Jiro is brought to Izuku, and with the Chaos Emeralds, or more or less the, I guess you could say Phantom Chaos Emeralds, circling around them, and a certain prayer being said by both Meth and N at the same time, basically before the deed is to be done, and then it happens. Right on the lips. And voila, Jiro is resurrected. And basically, now that the animals are back in Izuku Midoriya Shadow's body, he seems to notice that seems to be a drug trip every time he releases them from his body. But regardless, it was for a good cause. That's just what he's gonna tell himself. It was for a good cause. The good cause of finally allowing the girls to, have their mother back. And this basically also allows a certain thing to basically know what his biological daughter, his and Jiro's biological daughter actually would indeed look like. Basically what this is. What this becomes. The whole thing. Basically, the same thing as Izuku Midoriya's shadow, only hair's longer, and the little strands that, for Izuku are red, are actually the same color as the green, like the same shade of green as Mephilus's in Sonic 06. Like for the strands that aren't, black color like the rest of his hair. And as for any sort of super form, well, that's for another time. And as for Incarcio, basically, Incarcio basically looks like Jiro, but has those strands that a Shadow Do has, but instead of being a just random ass color, just simply being of a lighter purple, because like Jiro's hair, just from what I've seen of it, seems to be a purple shade. And the strands just seem to be of a lighter shade of purple. That's basically the entire thing about the do of, Incarcio. And everything else, basically, one other thing to be noted about Incarcio is that the right eye is red and the left eye is blue. As for what exactly shade of red and blue, well, the red is actually a crimson red, and the blue is more of a cyan blue. And after all of that, this is where I leave off. This is